Indianapolis Colts at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have moved out to a 7.5 point favorite in this one. 50.5 is our total. Steven, we are getting the Bills off of a bounce back game for them in which they went out and beat up on a bad team, which is what this Bills team has done all season long. And so if you want to, if you want to play the devil's advocate on this Bills team, which I know if you go and check out our power ratings, you're going to find that our power ratings have the Bills, way up there. If you wanted to play the other side of this, you would say the Bills wins have come against the Dolphins, the Washington football team, the Texans, the Dolphins, and the Jets. Yes, you can throw the one win against the Chiefs in there, but, losses against the Steelers, against the Titans, against the Jaguars. So do we really even know who this Bills team is? And do we really even know what the identity of this Bills team is? I think it's a team that has a pretty good defense that I don't think week to week what you're going to get on offense. What say you?
Yeah, so these two teams met in the postseason last year in Buffalo, and the Bills were a 6.5 point home favorite. So now in this game, we're looking at 7.5. When this game got to 7.5, I did bet on the Colts to cover that. And Matt, I just have a simple question for you. Are the Bills better or worse now than they were entering the playoffs last season? Not relative to the rest of the league, just compared to themselves. Are the Buffalo Bills better or worse now than they were at that point last season?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the defense is probably better, but I think that the offense is probably worse.
Yeah, I hear Brad too in the background. He says they're worse. So now we're getting through a touchdown here to cover the one possession, and I like that bet. So I made it. I think Indy is also better than they were at this point last season. So they had Phillip Rivers and his shell of an arm at the end of his career, not being able to throw it deep. So despite starting 0-3, the Colts this season have come pretty damn close to winning every single game since. The only two games that they didn't win was a meltdown against Baltimore, where they looked really impressive for most of that game. And also they had every opportunity to put Tennessee away, if not for a couple of bonehead Carson Wentz mistakes, which obviously you always have to factor in a handicap with the Colts at this point. But overall, they have been second in EPA per play, even better than Buffalo since week 4 after that slow start. They have the number 1 rush EPA per play since week 4, facing the number 1 rush defense EPA. So it's a really interesting matchup this week. But the Bills D has built that statistic with 5 games against Washington, Miami twice, the Jets, and Jacksonville. So I expect a similar game plan from Frank Reich to what we actually saw Kyle Shanahan do on Sunday Night Football against LA. I think they're going to try and run it 40 times and try and shorten this game. They ran it 30 times against Buffalo in the postseason last year for more than 5 yards per clip. Frank Reich upset peak Patrick Mahomes in 2019 doing the same game plan with friggin' Jacoby Brissett and Marlon Mack. He ran it 45 times, got a 15-minute edge in time of possession. This year, Reich ran it 33 times in the rain against San Francisco. So I'd be shocked if they don't come out and just try and just run it as much as possible to shorten this game. Rain is in the forecast in Buffalo. So I think they keep it within a possession here. I'm not saying they're going to win the game against Buffalo, but I think 7.5 is too much.
Brad, I think that you are of like mind in this one. I mean, if there is anything that you would point at that would be, a little bit of a weakness on this Bills defense, it would certainly be that you would want to attack them via the rush as opposed to the pass. But, and that's where Indianapolis, of course, with Jonathan Taylor would love to take advantage of that situation, having the season that he's having right now. Unless he gets completely shut down this week, he will eclipse 1,000 yards on the season rushing. And, again, he's over 300 yards receiving as well. So the guy's a do-it-all guy. And, maybe a guy like that is something that can take what I think are probably a little bit inflated Buffalo defensive numbers and put them a little bit into perspective. Because again, I'll read down this list of teams that they've beaten this year. And this is you can only play the teams that are in front of you. I get it. But they've beaten the Dolphins, the Washington football team, the Texans, the Dolphins, the Jets, and then you throw the one Chiefs game in there. Losses to the Steelers, losses to the Titans, losses to the Jags. So, I mean, I don't know if we know for sure that this Bills team is good.
No, I think they're probably the most overrated team in the league. And I think it's a bad matchup. So it's quite interesting what's going on in the league at the minute, where you've got these teams like the Chiefs and the Bills who are built to stop the pass and they're built to pass. And, you know, like that's the entire team is built that way. Like the defenses are light and rush the passer. The offenses have got sort of lighter offensive linemen to, you know, pass block rather than run block, and a load of receivers. And now you've kind of got a little wave coming back the other way, like the Patriots, the Browns, the Colts, who have just gone super heavy, or maybe even the Niners. And they're just running. They will run the ball down their throat 30 times here. Like, yeah, as you say, that Bills defense, they faced one good rush offense, which was the Titans, and the Titans put up 34 on them. You know, I'm not saying they're going to do that here, the Colts, but with a healthy offensive line with two very good backs, I think they should have good success on the ground. And then again, so obviously, I mean, I spouted off about the Bills last week, said they were overrated. I like the Jets. And obviously they scored 40 on the Jets. But, you know, I think Salah deserves a bit of criticism, like Rex Ryan was giving him, because the Bills came into that game, I think Josh Allen had faced the second most cover two in the league, the third most light boxes. You know, it was play them like you play Mahomes. Like, don't get beat deep, make them run the ball because they're not very good at it. And the Jets played two snaps of cover two all game, and they got torched. Like, they were up, you know, like 2 minutes to go before the end of the half, and they just let Stephon Diggs get open downfield for 50 yards. So, right, the Colts, their sort of shell is cover two, and they've got the horses up front in DeForest Buckner, I think, to get pressure with 4, to stop the run with, you know, a light box, and make Josh Allen throw the ball 12 times down the field to score a touchdown. And, you know, as we said, despite facing the easiest schedule, they're 14th in DVOA, their average offense. So I think 7 points is way too many. And the last point here, so Football Outsiders obviously loves the Bills, best team in the league by DVOA. Doesn't really like the Colts, 16th best offense by DVOA, and they still make this line 5. So they even thinking the Bills are the best team in the league, which I disagree with. They can only get to 5. So I don't know how 7 could be correct.
Yeah, my only worry here in this one, and I have a pretty strong lean to the Colts as well. My only worry in this one would be that if they figure out some way to limit the production, the run production, and then this gets put on Carson Wentz's arm, that we're going to be in for a bad deal here, because it's like, I mean, that this 4 straight weeks of sub 60 grade passing for Carson Wentz, like, I mean, there's a really good chance he's just not any. I am of the mindset he's just not any good. I've been, you guys know, we've done 10 weeks of these pods now. I do not think Carson Wentz is any good. The stats kind of start to back that up. The grades start to kind of back that up with everything. And my only worry in this is, okay, the Bills figure out some sort of way to neutralize what Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines and all this is able to do, and then it falls on Carson Wentz and his arm, and then the next thing you know, we look up and this Bills team's up by 27 in this game. You know, like, that's the only thing that worries me. And so I don't know. Again, hasn't gotten in my account yet, even with a healthy lean towards the Colts, but that is the holdup for me. And Brad, what do you, as we get out of here, like what do you get, like how much of a chance do you give that happening in this game, that Buffalo's able to kind of neutralize that, and then now you're relying on Carson Wentz?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I think he's 4th in the league with turnover worthy throws, and he's only thrown 3, so he's probably due for some regression. And against, you know, a sharp defensive mind, obviously that is a concern. I would say generally I trust the offensive line. Like, you know, the offensive skill set is more sticky, so I'm assuming they can impose their will. And, you know, I'm not saying it's 80%. I'm saying I think this is maybe 56%. I think the number should be 5, sure. And given the 7, I think is valuable. And I mean, the other concern on the other side is the Colts secondary, a couple of injuries at safety. And again, I'm assuming that if they're only rushing 4 and they're putting 7 back there, they can sort of cover up those weaknesses. But again, you know, the Bills have good receivers and they will be throwing it downfield. So there are obviously ways it can get beat. I just think it's a good EV bet.
Steven, it feels like to me, this is like, and it, this is, I'm sure the viewers and listeners are going to find this so incredibly handy as a little nugget here. This feels like the Colts cover or they lose by 20. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like it's a close, it's like they cover or they lose by 3 touchdowns. Like, it feels like it's just like, it gets out of hand or they keep this game close the whole time.
Well, if they're going to employ the game plan that I think they're going to and be run heavy and kind of mirror what we saw San Francisco do to the LA Rams last week, like Brad mentioned it, that requires you to have a pretty high success rate on third down to make it work, because you're not going to pick up first downs running the ball on first and second down most of the time. So there is some kind of variance with that, with trying to be run heavy, but that's how you try and win a game like this against an elite passing offense. So that could definitely blow up in your face, but I'm banking on the fact that they have been one of the elite running teams in the league since week 4, and that they were able to run on this Bills defense with the season on the line last year and keep it a 3-point game.